What is up, beautiful people? Christian here from the Successful Spiritualpreneur podcast. And today I'm super excited to bring you a very special guest. His name is Mike Prince, and he is a husband, proud dad, conscious living coach, sales leader, breathwork facilitator, and spiritual seeker. Once an elite athlete, and now an impact driven coach on a mission of transformation. Mike's life path has been a whirlwind of highs and lows, from the dizzying heights of corporate success to the dark depths of battling Lyme disease. It was in his darkest moments, feeling lost and disconnected, that the light appeared. He knew it was his mission to bring it to others. So let's bring it. Thanks for being on the show, Mike.
Thank you so much, Christian. Appreciate you having me.
I know, such an honor, and what a cool mission. How, okay, so what you should know about this podcast is that we're at the intersection of like spirituality and entrepreneurship, right?
Love it. Yeah.
So I think you're the perfect fit and person to have on. And how did you combine the two worlds? Because we know it's always a little bit of a stretch to have like one leg in the matrix and one leg in the other world, and those worlds are merging right now. You know what I mean? Like the old system
Mm.
is dying, more people are stepping into the newer system, the new economy, the creator economy, which you are, so prevalent in. So tell us about that. How did you, yeah, what's your
Yeah. I
bring
mean,
it to?
I love this topic first and foremost because I truly believe that, the spiritual journey and the entrepreneurial journey are so closely interlinked, right? And so for me, it was one that truly came out of, I had no choice. I was in the corporate world and also in the entrepreneurial journey at the same time and chasing too much and all the wrong things, to be honest, right? I would call myself previously a stereotypical man. I was chasing the things, and I was, love the accolades, bought the house, had a beautiful wife, had my second child, and I remember having a moment that like it was like a lightning bolt hit me in the driveway, that I stood there and something hit me and I said, I'm living my nightmare, which was becoming normal. And I wasn't excited about anything anymore. And so on the tail end of that, that's when Lyme disease visited me and, was brought into my life. And so in this journey of constantly going too fast, I mean, because it started in my childhood, um, eventually, I had to listen. The universe kept telling me in little moments. And when Lyme disease came, it finally said, you're going to listen. You have no choice anymore. And that's really when I had to make some changes. I had to look deeper internally to say, I'm the only one that can change this. I am my own healer. I have the answers and I have to do the work to get out of this or stay in the darkness. And so that's truly when worlds started to intersect because I started to see a lot of things clearer. And as I came out of that, as I realized, I can heal myself through Joe Dispenza meditations and finding modalities like breath work and, looking inward and finally taking accountability for the things in my life and my relationships and all of it. When I really started to come to life truly. And through that process, I received a message that also said, I was working with a shaman at one point and did Kambo as a part of my healing process. And it's not a spiritual medicine, but through that, um, I was told I was my healer, but I also need to bring it to the world. And that's when the mission really turned to say, okay, now how do I do that?
That's
And so,
incredible. Yeah, I love how your life sounds like an example of, just really taking the power back in your life,
mm,
right? You're living somebody else's life, and like all the projections that we obviously, it was your dream to like, have a house and have the family and this and that, but
yep,
like at some point you realize that, well, not that all that is empty, right? But it's all, no, it also not is everything, right? All the accolades on the outside and the house and the car and the this and the that. It's like you left yourself or a part of yourself on the journey
Mhm.
somewhere. And from what it sounds like that you've experienced, like also like Lyme disease visited me, like like you can tell like from your consciousness how you have just grown up to be this wise being of like, no, like this bad thing didn't happen to me, like it visited me, like it came to, it was brought into my, like there's a very mature perspective on your life experience. And I think it's really inspiring for our listeners to take the same approach in their life. Like what is it
Mhm.
that I still maybe somehow victimize myself with
Yeah.
and haven't taken the full power yet, right? Because we're all human, right? We all have our areas where we haven't just like fully gotten the grip on something yet, or just like taken responsibility, for something yet. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, to me, retrospectively, right? Like Lyme disease was my greatest gift. I wouldn't be on this phone call right now, this interview, this chat, this beautiful connection point if it never came to me because I had a ton to learn. And frankly, as I said, I wasn't listening. And so when we don't listen, we're going to constantly relearn until we do, right?
Mm,
And that's what it gave me the opportunity to do and essentially birth who I am today through a lot of challenges. But
that's beautiful. And it reminds me of have you ever heard of the book A Course in Miracles? It's like this big blue
mm,
book.
yeah,
It's a spiritual text that was supposedly channeled by Jesus and written down by somebody else.
yes,
I read a lot of channeled material. Um, and so anyways, in that book it says, your biggest accomplishments are your biggest setbacks, and your biggest setbacks are your biggest accomplishments. It's just like,
yeah,
oh whoa, look at it
powerful,
that
right?
way. So
Flipping
powerful.
the script. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then how did you, or when did it when did it dawn on you that, well, I want to make this my mission, because it's one thing to like go through a disease and go through a setback or whatever realignment point in one's life, but it's another to decide to make it your mission, to put that out there rather than, okay, I've learned this and let me move on with my life and do this and that. But no, you're just like, I've learned this and I want to share this with people. I want to bring this to the world.
Yeah, great question. Honestly, it's my eyes were open wide at that point, right? And so I started to see it all around me. I started to see the version of me that I was all around me, and really, my focus has been on men. And I think we all, in the society we were born into, right, we're just taught that those things to be tough, to be the providers, and suck it up, and don't be vulnerable, and all of these things just put more weight on our shoulders again and again and again. And that's I was part of that as well, right? And so the things that I did was that I was chasing and that I was justifying. Honey, I'm working, all of these things, multitasking, doing emails while I was at the table with my family. Like these things now I look at, I shake my head, but I laugh because it's not, it was a part of me that got me here. But I started to see that all around me. And so as it happened to me and my eyes were open, I felt a sense of duty and responsibility, right? I have the tools. I now have the knowledge. How can I not share that? I know I'm not living my authentic, true self if I am not bringing that to other people. So, really, the journey started when I opened my field to that. It started to say goodbye finally to things like drinking on the weekends and really shifting to um, looking for new individuals that I wanted to connect with. And I actually connected with a neighbor of mine who, similar situation. He was pushing two kids in a stroller. His kids are only a year older than my two boys. And we first did what guys do. We played sports, but then we started to have some deeper level conversations about our marriages and about being a dad. And, I told him I've been cold plunging. And so he bought a cold plunge. And so we started to connect on a level that usually, guys don't, or it takes them a long time to. And he started to hear some of the tidbits of what I was doing and what he was doing. And there was this common thread there that we said, okay, well, how do we bring this to another level? And so him and I actually said, we're going to host a men's retreat. And this
Yeah.
is where it all began. And, with very little experience, we booked an Airbnb 6 weeks out, and we said, okay, let's fill it. And yeah, we managed to get 10 amazing humans there, and it was such an impactful event. And then the passion, that flame grew because we saw what we could do and the impact we could create by just creating space and opening up conversations. And then it was, okay, well, what do we do in between retreats? Right. And it expanded from there. It really said, how can we keep creating impact and creating better dads, creating better husbands, creating, taking driven men and slowing them down and realizing they can actually go faster if they just slow down. They can be more efficient. They can gain clarity. And so that's really how it just continued to spread as we opened up to flow and listening, right? Getting more in tune with ourselves to listen to where we needed to go.
Wow. That's incredible. So beautiful. And I think especially in the men's space, it's just like what you said. It's like there's so little space for us to process, because we're constantly busy and we run all these like social conditions and programs that we haven't fully taken responsibility for, including myself. I can see where I still do some of that in my life where I'm just like, why am I doing this right now? You know? Um, and so having that space of talking and opening up and sharing with other men is so priceless. Like such it's such an honor, and also as part of our like work with our agency, I run also an agency apart from this podcast. It's called Love Pixel Agency, and we work a lot with like personal brands and especially men,
Yeah.
and it's such a big topic, and the videos that you see, or you go on a vision quest or a retreat, and like the scenes and the things that you witness is just so healing,
Yeah. I think, what's happened in the last 5 or however many years now, right, is these spaces are being created and men are just releasing, men are just opening up from all they've been holding on to. Right. And it's incredible to witness because there's a massive healing that needs to happen right now between the masculine and the feminine as well. Right. And this is just the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think
Yeah.
it's finding that balance as well. Um, the duality, right, where we can be open-hearted businessmen. We can still go make the money. We can still build the empire, and have open hearts too, and be kind-hearted.
I know. Isn't that a beautiful realization?
100% to be our authentic self and still do all of it.
Yeah. It's that one sentence that you said before a couple minutes ago. I was like, why wouldn't I, if I live in my authentic self, why wouldn't I share that with the world, or something like that, is what you
Mhm.
said. And I think that's where it's at, and I'm also like, in my life it's the same kind of like balance, like I have an agency, I have a podcast, I have a tea brand. It's like what do you post online? It's also different, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But, like, the challenge is like to just, yeah, share everything. You know what I mean? Why are you holding back? Why do you think you should only share one,
Totally. I love that you said that, right? It's like, but of course, we're humans. We overcomplicate everything. And we think if I share this, they're going to think this. Or if I'm sharing too much of the T brand, how's that relating to to Love Pixel and that brand and how, right? But of course it intertwines. It's your story, it's your brand. And the more we bring our authentic self through, and we actually bring fun into it. And I'm talking to myself on that one. But that's how we attract are the clients that are right for us, because that's how it works these days, right? The old way of sales is no longer. It's really like what value we can bring and where there's a fit.
Yeah, very true. I think that's something that's like very much disregarded these days. Like, people still think like funnels, and I mean, yes, funnels work, but it needs to be even more precise, even more in alignment now. Like, people don't want the hard sell anymore. They're over that. Their
Now the
bullshit.
radars are
Yeah, their bullshit
way
was
up.
way too smart.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
in the world of AI, which serves us massively, the what's going to win ultimately though is the personal, the touch, right? The what that can never evolve into is taking away that heart, that energetic space, right? And so you nailed it. It's where can we connect on that human level.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see, what changes AI will bring, like, collectively, and
Hmm.
just humanity, because a lot of time we'll be freed up to actually look at things that we want to look at, because
Yeah.
we're not made to sit in front of a computer all day. It's just not, humans are not made for that stuff. You know what I mean? And we're made to
No.
be creative and free and autonomous, and you know
Yeah. I mean, we've all got the primal being still inside of us, right? And so putting us in front of these screens, which we're all guilty of for way too many hours, it's not where we're going to flourish essentially, right? Or we at least need to create that time that we're resetting and we're stepping away and we're coming back full.
beautiful. And so let me shift gears a little bit. With that being said, I think I can answer it for you, like your definition of a successful spiritualpreneur. But if you want to put it in your own words again, and then I'd
Mhm.
love to go into, are you still offering retreats right now? What do you offer? What do your product service look like? Like, switching a little bit more to, like, okay, how does it look in the back end? How do you run your business? Like, how do you run a conscious business?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, I think this is where everybody loves to talk about the word balance, right? Work life balance. But I don't believe there's work life balance because I believe there's going to be times when my family needs me more, and that's going to be heavily weighted. Or I've set boundaries and it's okay. I've chatted with my family and they know my business is in a growth phase right now and I need to go into creative mode, and that's okay, right? That's okay. I'm still going to be at the dinner table. I just might not be at jujitsu, right? That for that couple week period. And so I think that's what's really important when we look at the spiritual journey and entrepreneurial journey is that we have to really listen to, we have to always put ourselves first, ultimately, right? I'll rewind a moment because we are the deepest reflection of our business. The worthiness, the creativity or lack thereof, um, how far we can take it, or how small it's going to stay, right? Is ultimately centralized in our belief of self and how we show up for ourselves, and then that echoes out into everything that we do. So when we're looking at our business, there's going to be it's just going to be so intertwined, and we have to constantly look at if we're burning ourselves out, step back. If we're in creative go mode, step in and lean in, right? And that's ultimately the relationship I see, and where I've shifted because I used to be very work heavy, and as are many others, right? As men making money, that's how we are the provider. But the next part of your question there on retreats and creation now, um, I'm actually in an interesting phase, a really exciting phase. At first, it was like a breakup because that awesome business partner I spoke of, we created these men's spaces, we created groups, and we did multiple retreats, and it was going amazing. We have a group on Facebook with 600 men. We had an inner circle we created on a private chat platform. But what we came to is almost like a creative halt. And we realized that we weren't creating the foundation for ourselves. We were just serving. And, as amazing as it was, we
Hmm.
weren't building our foundation to be able to serve at a higher level, right? And so revenue and finances come into that because if we're not making the money that we're we need to make to flourish and to be able to take bigger risks and to be able to do bigger things, then we're not going to do it ultimately, right? So we both decided to say, okay, we're taking a pause. We're not shutting everything down, but we shut a lot of things down where we were spending our time, right? And it wasn't as effective as it could have been. And we came back and built our own things. So um, I built an amazing 90-day program, which I rebranded again called The Conscious Man. Um, and I'm in the works of building a self-guided 90-day conscious man. So there
Mhm.
can be, a different level there, a different entry point for those that don't need as much as of my time. And so this is really um, built to, take men out of the chaos and help them live intentionally. And so,
Beautiful.
that's kind of what's been my current um, deep obsession and passion is, getting in the men's lives that I'm currently working with, and then building things for future to call on other men. Um,
Yeah, that's
truth.
beautiful. And if you don't mind me asking, like, what were the reasons? Because most of the times, or I would say some of the hardest parts of a business is to build some sort of traffic or lead flow, which takes a lot of energy. It seems like you guys had that, and you guys had a community with engagement. Like, what was the reason you didn't just maybe stick with that and monetize that versus splitting up and people like doing their own thing? Like,
Great. Yeah, good question again. It really, our engagement was slowing down.
hmm
And this is where the, again, business and spirituality meet is energetically, we were already pulling back.
hmm
We were thinking about what we weren't building. We were thinking about how our time didn't feel valued anymore. We were thinking about these things, and it started to reflect in the amount of guys that were coming into our one space, and the quality of men we were attracting. And same happened in the Facebook group. They were, it was coming in slowly, but we weren't doing anything anymore to really engage there. And so that was the exact decision was it came down to, okay, we either really need to put the pedal down on this and get more strategic and, continue to grow this, or we need to step back. And we can keep this alive. We can keep it humming kind of now that it's got its thing. We can close down this, and then we can come back even stronger when the time is right with the new wisdom that we've gained, with a whole new restructure and plan to keep people flowing. So that's really what it came to. And it was a very hard decision because, of course, we had 20 guys inside our private platform who have built relationships with each other and us. And we're, every day we're dripping things too. And so it had to really be a phase out to make sure it was fair to them as well. And but we built enough trust there that, when we announced it, they knew what we needed to do was the right move as well. So it was kind of cool as much as it was scary to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oftentimes, like when, the more you work in the energetic space, like things get very obvious, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes in like the information or the reflection we get from the outside world is in alignment with what we're feeling already, right?
Yes.
Because they're also, I would say, above average conscious men. They were also kind of like feeling like, yeah, maybe it is time to move on. So
Yeah, you nailed it. A good amount of them said, this is time for us to do this on our own. We've been leaning on you guys for X amount of time. Now it's time for us to go create too.
that's
Right.
beautiful.
So we know there's going to be a coming back together, and there's already been some exciting intertwinement on the sides with some of the guys in between us. So it really, with certainty, I can say it was the right move.
And out of those 20 guys, if you can, like, maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but like, do you know how many of them self started something, or like, were inspired by what you guys were doing and doing
Mhm.
something?
Yeah, I mean, one we call a leader in our space now. He started what's called the Present Dad movement. He wrote a book. He now hosts a monthly challenge. Another one is in the midst of writing a kids book. So yeah, I could go on. There's multiple things that like these ideas were just sitting there, right? And by getting around a group of like-minded men that had done some of these things, right, or other projects of their own, um, by nature we try to match, we try to rise to them. We say, whoa, okay, this is possible. I'm now around guys that this stuff is real. It's not just an idea up here. And I find so many people hold those back, right? If they're going out for a group of guys having beers and watching sports, they're probably going to feel awkward bringing that up in some settings, right? So they don't. So they let that sit there for so long.
Mm.
But when they get in the other room where, we're having deeper level conversations about growth, and it's not just the deep challenges that we talk about, of course, but it's the business ideas, and that's when they come out of idea phase and the words are spoken and the action's taken.
I know, that's so cool. And they automatically, like, everybody just like is uplifting their
Hmm.
consciousness and frequency. So even if they're out with the guys for beers, like it's gonna somehow reflect. Like I
Yep.
am, I love tea. Like I'm so much into tea. I started my own Amazon FBA brand and blah 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 because it was like, how do I like? I don't want to deal with the marketing because like building a brand on social media is a pain in the ass. Like, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
Yeah.
um, so I was like, where can I go to just like spread the joy with tea, just spread the movement with tea, So I was like, let me go on Amazon. They take a bunch of your fees, you have like, you end up with margins currently like 15,
Yeah.
20%, um, which is still great for, not needing to do so much like service work, which is on
Totally.
the side, right?
Yeah.
Um, but still, I mean, Amazon takes quite a bit, anyways. Um, but for me, it was like because I'm into that, I share that with other people, and then they get interested, especially obviously if it's something that they're interested in, which is like business is more likely than just like why tea. Who cares about tea? Nobody. But like business is like interesting, and then tea. Why tea? Why did you choose that? So that like because of
Mhm.
my frequency that has been adjusted to like better things I put into my body versus
Yep.
like a beer or wine or three beers,
Yep.
um, that reflects too. So it's really cool that
Totally.
you had that effect on your community. And of course, I mean, it makes sense, I mean, it's cool to see that you actually had such a big impact.
It's neat. Yeah. Even hearing that, we're, as humans, we always have a hard time receiving, right? And that's something I'm still learning to do. It always feels awkward, but
Not
ultimately,
just like not just the conversation, which like, oh, why don't you talk to your wife about this? Or why don't you say this to your kid?
yeah.
Which is also huge. Don't get me wrong, but like
Yeah.
changing somebody's business or action trajectory with like,
Mhm.
I'm going to execute on this or I'm going to build a brand. It's like a new identity, and with that identity
Totally.
shift, you're able to like get to the next step, the next level, get to the next level, get to it's like
Yeah.
from there on out, it's like that's really like where things come around, go around. You know what I mean? It's like it's just up leveling, up leveling, up leveling. It's like from
It
there,
is.
it's incredibly empowering for a human being to do that. So
Yeah.
kudos for that.
It is. It's again, you're tying the business and spiritual together, right? Because at each new level, we think, all right, the pain's going to be gone, the challenges are going to be gone, but they're not. They just get greater, and we become more capable, right? And we got to look around and see who can help me on this next level. And that's, as you said, when we start leveling up the people around us as well, and then you keep going. And sometimes it's a very slow and steady journey, and sometimes then you hit a fast track, right? And you better hold on.
Beautiful. Well, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about your, daily rituals, daily, what is it that you do on a regular basis that helps you, build your brand and, build your business. So, yeah, if you have any insights that you want to share, is super appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the work I do with people is building, really removing and building new habits and non-negotiables in their life. And so I truly believe, especially in this space, right, the in the boom of health and wellness and the world essentially opening their eyes a little more. I think people that are living in integrity with their work is what's so important. Um, and I've just geeked out on it for the past 5 or 6 years. I love finding things to optimize how I feel every day. And so for me right now, it starts early, right? I'm a little bit before 5 a.m. I'm at the gym and I get my, well, first I have, your classic water and that, to refuel my body, but breath work, meditation are daily. They happen every single day. Um, Gratitudes, I'll say I'm not every day on, but I have a gratitude journal as well. That generally, if I'm at home and not going to the gym, I sit down and I do that. And it's really just setting the tone for the day and how I feel, right? And when we gratitude's such a massive one, and I won't expand on all these, or I'll go way too long. But gratitude's such a simple, powerful one. Everybody wants to overcomplicate the things we need to do, but the answers are obvious and they're right in front of us. You just need to actually do them. But gratitude trains our minds throughout the day to look for the things we're grateful for, right? It's literally a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, right? If we look for the wins, we're going to find the wins. If we look for the losses, we're going to find the losses. If we're grateful and we go into our day feeling grateful, we're going to feel grateful as we go throughout our day. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I really set myself up for the day is movement in the morning, grounding, and dropping into gratitude. And then I come home, I have coffee with my wife, and get into family stuff, give my kids breakfast, drive them to school. I always ask them a few things on the way to school, like what integrity means and what they're going to be today. And that really sets them up for how their day is going to go. And then I dive into my day, which is, or my work day, which starts with socials always. Socials for me is important first thing in the day because it's when I have my fresh mind, my creative mind. The chaos hasn't begun, and I can really think about, okay, how do I want to show up today and bring value to my audience? Do a quick check-in with clients that I'm serving as well while I'm fresh. Yeah, and then it's really calls for the most part, diving into different calls and tasks throughout the day. And I have some non-negotiables in my day as well, which I implement, which is besides eating, of course, but stepping away for literally like 1 to 2 minutes, taking a pause, because it's so powerful to just reset. And I'm talking literally 1 to 2 minutes. Gives us that, resets that focus, right? Instead of our mind jumping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, we all can become, we think, very good at multitasking, right? But you don't know till you know. And when you take these small breaks, your level of clarity and focus just dials up. So that's kind of the breakdown of my day. And then of course I flow back into, I've got 2 young kids, 5 and 6. So we have, we're in that phase where they're getting into activities a few times a week. So evenings, if I'm in the regular flow, then yeah, we have jujitsu, or we've got soccer, or I play outside with them, do some tobogganing this time of year. But then there's sometimes I'm on a call or two in the evening too, depending, right? And, that's already communicated. My wife and I, she knows we're in building mode right now, and that's okay. It's not a stress, right? Because we've communicated it. We support each other in our projects, and then it makes me miss my family even more, even though they're in the same house, which is a nice feeling. But when we don't communicate those things, on the other side of this door is a stress. Is me making assumptions of like, oh, she's mad at me. Oh man, the kids think dad works too much. Oh. But it's not the case. Those are stories we create, right? When we don't communicate, we don't set boundaries, and we don't create that dynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Thanks for sharing all that. And I want to take just one breath because inspired by your minute that you take a step away, just like for
Mm-hmm.
everyone that's listening and watching, just to like close
Mm-hmm.
your eyes and take one breath. Even like one breath, I think sometimes does for me so much. It's incredible. Just like one breath, you know?
Totally. I mean, our relationship with our breath is so intimate, and it's everything. Like, what's the first thing we do as we enter this world? We take a breath. What's the last thing we do before we leave it? We release our breath. Yet the relationship in between those two, most people never think about it. It's just automatic, right? But when we learn to consciously harness our breath in the small moments, just what you just did there, if you just breathed into your stomach there, that's telling your body you're safe, right? And it's wild. We're going from our sympathetic nervous system to our parasympathetic, like being in chaos down into safety in a single breath,
Wow.
right?
Crazy. Yeah, as you say, it's hidden in the simple things. It's just we forget about it.
Mhm. Yeah,
It,
100%.
it's so crazy. And I'd love to ask you a little bit more about your social time because a lot of listeners here are, having their own social brands and, building their brands and creating content. Like, what is it like? How do you determine content? Do you have certain like content pillars? What helps you to create that content? Any tips there is super appreciated.
Yeah, this is it. This is a huge one, I think, in the creator space and any online businesses because it's such a block, right? So, and until I got more strategic on this, I just showed up on social media again and again and did it. And yeah, it wasn't very effective, right? The growth wasn't really happening. Besides my athletic days, because that was something exciting that people wanted to grab onto. But once I got into this work, it's serious work, right? It's not all serious, but it's you really have to niche into what who you're aiming at. So I think that goes for everybody. And so for me, it was when I created pillars. Yeah, that's a huge one to say, okay, here's my 5 pillars, right? Here's talk to some of the pain points of your clients, of your possible service or product buyers, right? And then what's some of the values, some of the solutions you can give them on those as well, right? So take each pillar and break it down to the different ways that we can post as well, right? You take that one topic and now you can expand. Okay, I'm going to do a reel about that. I'm going to do a carousel about that. I'm going to do a post and a story about that. So now we've taken one topic and we've made it 4 or 5 pieces of content instead of one, right? So we always think we have to have the same or a different thing every single day, or else our audience is going to think, oh, this guy's repeating themselves, and it's like nobody's watching us that close. Nobody's watching you that close enough. That's our ego saying, oh, we need something fresh and different every day. But no, it's the truth is, no, we want to create themes on our pages, right? If someone brand new comes to your page, what is the theme they are seeing in terms of your offering, right? So streamlining it with pillars, creating multiple pieces of content from, each one, which can be value or your pain points, which are both going to pique the ears of your clients, right? And then having some fun too, not being afraid to show your behind the scenes and your life, because again, that's how we connect. If you constantly go for the product, the sale, all of that, like they're going to run. They're getting
Yeah.
bored, right? And they're thinking this person only cares about what they're selling versus actually letting us into their life a little bit.
Yeah. That's so true. And me having a little one too, like mine is 6 years old as well. Um, to sharing that life too with the audience. It's
Mhm.
human again. It's like not just yeah, you want to provide value, but again, like you also want to show you're human. You have a life. Everyone has a life.
Yeah.
Nobody is just a machine. Soon to be AI avatars, everyone. But
Yeah.
we want to get back, just like you said. Like, what will be most important once all the AIs are talking for themselves? It's like as the human again.
Yeah. And I mean, you have your 6-year-old there, and guess what? The other dad that also has a young one relates to that immediately. Like, oh wow, they're actually running that business. Plus, they do that. Plus, right? Like, these are the connection points.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're coming up towards the end of the episode. We have about like 7 8 minutes left. So I wanted to ask you a couple, questions about your legacy. So, what are 3 words that you want people to know you for, like after you leave this planet?
What a
Pretty,
good question.
pretty out there, but yeah,
Yeah.
take
I mean,
to
the
reflect.
first one that comes to mind for me is loving, because I think that embodies so much. Um, yeah, and I think that's truly how I try to lead every day, whether it's in business or in personal. I deeply care about a lot of the people that I work with. And if I don't, generally I won't work with them.
Mm.
um, and I think it goes so far to bring love into, everything that we do. Um, Other words there. I mean, I'm gonna pull from how you introduced me, and this is two words, but proud dad. Like, being a father is such a part of my identity
Mm.
and such a big piece of my life, and teaches me so much, and is so tied to my entrepreneurial journey as well. Because kids just bring so much to our world. So if that can be something I leave behind that people remember, Mike loved being a dad, and he put his all into it. I mean, that's super valuable for me. Um, the last one I would think of, I'm just going to say too as well, is like visionary or inspirational, because my goal while I'm here, is not just my immediate family. It's not just my friends. It's I truly want to create impact in this world. And I've had an inner calling, like an inner knowing since I was in my teens, that I was meant for something more, and I was meant. And I'm finally at this phase in my life where I know that's not chasing partying and just big adventures. It means, bringing wisdom to the world and sharing gifts. And so that would be the third one that comes to mind.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. So deep, and I think that's where, yeah, to bring it back to the AI, like that's where it will be hard for AI too. It's like, what is
Mhm.
love? This doesn't make sense, guys. Like, stop that. But it's like
Absolutely.
it's so deep, so vast, so ineffable. It can't even be put into words. It reminds me of like the Tao, Tao Te Ching. The first sentence
Yeah.
in the Tao is like the Tao that can be put into words is not the Tao. You know.
Hmm.
So as soon as you try to describe love, it's just not quite getting there. It's like,
Nothing's
but
feeling.
yeah, it's like love is inherently so human, and it's such a beautiful, vast space. I mean, anything's possible with love. You know what I mean? If your
Yeah.
amount of love just outgrows or stays whatever else is around, like that's it.
It
You know?
just breaks down all barriers. It heals, right? Like you could go on and on. It's so powerful.
Yeah, beautiful. And I have two more questions before we go into the closing part of our episode. Who or what inspires you the most in your spiritual and entrepreneurial journey, like currently, or maybe also from the past?
Hmm. Um, I will. Two things come to mind for me on that. A big one for me is a couple gurus that I actually worked with, and did my breathwork certification with. They still inspire me constantly, which is Lucas Mack and Hella Weston.
Mm.
They're a couple, and they're just so raw, so real. They share their lives intimately. They talk about where they've come from to where they've gotten. So kind and loving. And so constantly I tap into their worlds to see what they're up to and try to listen to some of their messages. I know you brought up channeling earlier, like hella channels. I've witnessed it live, and it's just so impactful. Lucas has a wild story. He came from New Zealand, and as a kid was his dad was in a biker gang, and he became a tattoo artist, and then just everything shifted for them when they started to tap into spirituality and believing in themselves. And I think they just have such powerful messages. The second thing I'll just 30 seconds on is honestly my clients. Like, they inspire me every day. The amount they push and lean into the things that I put in front of them, we talk about that up leveling. It constantly makes me have to level up, because I'm constantly looking for, okay, what do I got to bring these guys next? How am I going to challenge these? Because they're stepping up to the plate constantly. So when I think of who inspires me on a daily basis, they're a huge one.
Beautiful. And another question: what's your vision of the new Earth? However you define that.
Hmm. I mean, we just really opened up about it a moment ago with love, right? Like, I've never been a big one in politics, talking about politics, getting into politics. I believe that the change is at people level. And I believe that, us being kind to our neighbors, uh, I believe that in the new earth and the new world, people are going to be more tapped into themselves. And when we're more tapped into ourselves, more of us are finding our gifts. And when more of us are finding our gifts, more of us are bringing our gifts to the world. And if we all just leaned into what we love doing and our passions and, ripped all of the roles and all of the masks off and fully walked in this world as our authentic selves, it would change everything. The vibration of the whole world would change, right? And so for me, that's why this mission is so important, because I truly believe, that men are the biggest ones wearing the masks and being closed off, right? And so it's to rip the armor off and to also know it's okay to show our hearts and be vulnerable. And I think when everybody in this world begins to do that, so I think a huge piece for all of us is our kids, right? We have an opportunity right now, even if we're not a father or a mother, you are an influencer to the kids in this world, right? And when we can influence them, they're the ones coming next, right? And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
true. Beautiful. I love that. So now that we're getting to the end of the podcast, I always love to give it over to the guest and create some space for your future goals and visions. So I just wanted to hand it over to you and answer kind of like what are your future goals as an entrepreneur, as a company, as a brand, and what are you looking to call in currently in your life?
What a powerful question. Yeah, for me right now, it's one I've known for years, but as we do, we run from it and we create stories around it. And for me, that is public speaking. That's speaking on stages. That when I get myself in that scenario, when I get the opportunity to, I get in such flow, and I just share from such a place where it feels like it's not even me. And that for me, I believe, is my next level. And through doing that work, I'll I'll work with more individuals, right? And then I'll also be able to ripple out a little further with my voice. And it's just so for me, when I think about my future vision, that's always been it: is speaking on stages, inspiring, helping motivate, helping teach people that they can do the thing, that they can break out of the chaos and default mode and do what they want to do, right? And stop holding back. And so when I think of future me, that's really where it's at. And piece by piece, we're getting there. We're stepping into it.
I love that. Yeah, no, just by the fact that you're putting that out there, you're calling that to you. So, man, just stay in the vibration of that, and it'll manifest more and more. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then as you know, as closing out, like what are the last words you want to leave the audience with, and where can people find you?
Hmm. Um, yeah, one of the most powerful things I think we can do in this world is think about how we make others feel, right? I forget who said the quote, but there's one that, like, it's not about what we do in this world, it's how we make people feel. And I had a special individual in my life who's no longer on this earth, but my Uncle Scott. When I was a kid, when I think of one person who made me feel so seen and like $1,000,000 every time I saw them, it was him. And that takes an energy in all of us, right? To be in that uplifting energy. And we got to do the work to get in that energy, right? So the most powerful thing I think we can do in this world is do the work on ourselves, because it's so healing. And yeah, walk with our hearts open, because others feel that. And if we can be that loving, that warming, that welcoming individual to anybody we come across, we just don't know the ripple effect that holds. We don't know whose life we can change from a smile, from a opening a door, from doing a little gesture and sharing our good energy. Um, So that would be the final message I would say. And where I'm most active is on Instagram. So it's at the Conscious Creator Coach. Of course, I have a website as well, which is consciouscreator.world.
Beautiful. Thanks for being here, sharing all your wisdom, sharing all your heart. I really appreciate your time and your passion for everything you shared. And yeah, thanks for being
Thank
on.
you. And thank you for having me on. And this was honestly one of the best chats I've ever had on a podcast. So I appreciate the space. You create a very amazing, safe, comfortable space to have a good conversation. So well done, and I truly appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I try to, balance the two worlds of, again, spirituality and business. It's not just like a rapid fire, tell me about your business, and not just a
Yeah,
like soft, tell me about the wishy washy about your life type of thing. We want both. I think that's really where the goal is at. And I think we've worked that really out like very well together in this podcast, so thanks. Thanks.
absolutely. Yeah, it was a pleasure.